Welcome back to the channel, guys. My name is Gordon Frayne. We are back with another video. Today, we're talking about getting just zero point 0.1 Bitcoin. We're looking out for the long term, painting the picture of where Bitcoin's price could go over the next decade and beyond. As always, if you enjoy the content, please make sure to smash the thumbs up button below, hit subscribe, hit that bell notification icon, and don't forget you've got a completely free copy of The Rise of Bitcoin waiting for you in the description below this video. So go ahead, grab it now, and let's talk about Bitcoin. Okay, so let's paint the picture first and foremost of where we stand with Bitcoin today and some of the phenomenal growth we've seen in price action in the 15 to 16 years since Bitcoin's inception. So we're currently sitting here in July of 2025 with Bitcoin prices at $108,113, just a stone's throw away from these previous all-time highs, up at $111,000, where we got to back on the 22nd of May 2025. We're putting in this consolidation pattern here right now. I think we could have an exciting 6 months ahead of us in the second half of 2025, where we see prices moving higher. But for now, we're hanging out in this consolidation pattern around 108 to 110,000 US dollars. If we zoom out here on the weekly chart, we can see the phenomenal growth mapped here and Bitcoin's trajectory over the past number of years. We had a phenomenal run up in price here all the way back in 2017 from that kind of $2,000 area up to that $19,000 before we came back down into a bear market, going back here as low as prices around that $3,000 mark before ripping much, much higher again here in that 2020-2021 cycle. We had a double top formation, a really big run up here in Q1 and a peak up in April around that $63,000 area, a big pullback during the summer, a move higher where we got to 69,000 again. And once again, we moved into a consolidated bear market. And again, as we approached 2023, we had a nice big run up here into Q1 of 2024, pull back again, rally into Q1 of 2025, pulling back as we came into March, April of this year. And then we've moved higher and are consolidating once again. So the compounded annual growth rate for Bitcoin on average has been, in excess of 60% since its inception. And the phenomenal returns that you could be getting if you were DCAing into Bitcoin from a very early stage are, of course, asymmetric compared to almost any other investment on the planet. If we take a look at the Bitcoin power law and think about this price action on a logarithmic scale using the power law, what we see is if we project out with the price action here over the next few years, the fair value for Bitcoin has us getting to around a $1 million per Bitcoin by the year 2032. My projections based on this fair value of the power law put us at that $1 million mark in July of 2032. Again, that is assuming we follow the fair value green line on this particular chart. This is the linear regression fit. However, as you can clearly see, there are certain occasions, especially as we move towards that parabolic phase of the bull market, where we go much, much higher towards this purple resistance band, moving way beyond the linear regression fit to prices much, much higher. And that happened, as you can see, back here in 2011, 2012. It happened again in the next cycle, as we saw. And then we had it again in the 2017 run-up, again in the 2021 run-up, not going quite all the way to that purple resistance line. But if we move higher here as we have the rest of this cycle, we come back to have a bit of a bear market before moving again in 2028 and possibly into 2032. We could even hit that $1 million per Bitcoin much, much sooner than 2032. We obviously have to wait and see what's going to happen, how that plays out over the next few years. But realistically, that is only a 7-year time period from today here in July 2025. And if we think about that in the grand scheme of things, doing a potential 10x or just under a 10x, if we're sitting at $108,000 today, moving towards $1 million per Bitcoin, that is a phenomenal return in a 7-year period. Okay. The other thing we want to think about here is the even longer picture. Michael Saylor has done many projections using Bitcoin's compounded annual growth rate, even taking conservative numbers, putting Bitcoin at something like a 29 to 30% compounded annual growth rate over the next 20 years as we move towards 2045. And his numbers have us getting to $13 million per Bitcoin by 2045, with a compounded annual growth rate from now over the next 20 years using that 29 to 30% CAGR. So again, big picture thinking here, an investment today in this $108,000 Bitcoin moving towards 2032, where we potentially hit $1 million Bitcoin price, and beyond that to 2045, hitting $13 million per Bitcoin, we could be in for some very phenomenal returns. Even though Bitcoin seems expensive today, I think in comparison to the debasement of fiat currency over the next decade and beyond, we're going to see capital flowing into Bitcoin. We're going to see Bitcoin's price denominated in US dollar terms increasing exponentially over the next decade and beyond. And I still think Bitcoin is positioned as a phenomenal asymmetric bet over the next couple of decades. Just to illustrate that point, I want to look at Glassnode Studio here. You can see the Bitcoin 4-year compounded annual growth rate on the chart here with this orange line. And again, the price in the black line representative of how Bitcoin's price action is moving. Yes, the compounded annual growth rate is going to slowly come down over time, but you can see even during certain periods over the past 4 years, Bitcoin's compounded annual growth rate has been as high as 179% as recently as 2021. It has also spiked up as high here as 93% in March of 2024. And of course, as price fluctuates and moves, we're going to see that CAGR percentage change over time. We're currently sitting at a CAGR of around 32%. But as you can see, it will fluctuate between 30 and 100% over the coming months and years as well. So Michael Saylor's number is a pretty good target when we think about projecting out that compounded annual growth rate for the next 10 to 20 years. So running some very quick numbers here, I wanted to hone in on the opportunity here with Bitcoin. And of course, $10,800 is not cheap, but the title of today's video is Get Just 0.1 Bitcoin, because 0.1 Bitcoin today is a $10,800 investment. But what will that look like come 7 years from now in 2032? And of course, as we move towards 2045? Well, of course, 0.1 Bitcoin today is $10,800. This should be 2032. And if we get to 2032 with that progression in the Bitcoin power law and the expected price of Bitcoin getting to $1 million by July of 2032, you would have over $100,000 with the price action of Bitcoin getting to that $1 million mark. If you're able to get that 0.1 Bitcoin today and move towards that $1 million Bitcoin in 7 years from now, that's not a bad return. Again, that's a 10x. And if you think about it on an even larger time frame, moving towards the year 2045 with Michael Saylor projection of a $13 million Bitcoin by the year 2045, I know 20 years seems like a long time, but if you can do a phenomenal return, turning $10,800 into $1.3 million by waiting 20 years and letting Bitcoin do the hard work with its compounded annual growth rate, you would be sitting on $1.3 million by the year 2045 with a 0.1 Bitcoin investment today in July of 2025. I think it'll be exciting to look back on this video, look back on the numbers, even just 4 to 5 years from now. But as we move towards 2032, if we can see Bitcoin follow that power law, follow the asymmetric returns and the compounded annual growth rate that we've seen it put in over the past 15 to 16 years, I think we're in for an exciting few years. So that is it for today's video, guys. If you can, make sure to get just 0.1 Bitcoin, run the numbers yourself, look at the compounded annual growth rate, look at the power law, look at some of those other models for evaluating the price action of Bitcoin and where it could get to over the next 10 to 20, 30 years. Again, nothing in this video is financial advice. Always do your own research. Do research on the fundamentals, on the technicals, on all of your own models. Run the numbers for yourself. Make your own decisions. But I hope you got some sort of value out of the projections and calculations that we looked at today. If you did, please make sure to drop a thumbs up on the video below. Hit subscribe, hit that bell notification icon, and don't forget to grab your completely free copy of The Rise of Bitcoin, linked below this video in the description. Grab it now, completely free, and we'll catch you in the next one.